From California, Mr. Costa, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing, Chairman Thompson and Ranking Member Scott. I think it's timely for a lot of reasons that I think we're all aware of. Members of this committee have gotten used to me saying, as a third-generation farmer from California, that food is a national security issue. I get frustrated, I think, along with many of my colleagues on this committee, that too often the majority of Americans don't look at food being a national security issue because we do it so well with less than 4% of our nation's population directly involved, but it is. And I think it's important that this committee focus on the danger that China poses to America in terms of its impact on American agriculture and therefore food put on America's dinner table every night. Let me just kind of give you my thoughts, and then I have a couple questions I want to ask. I really think that the best strategy for this, because China is an adversary, they are a competitor, and they are a vast market. And so regardless of what administration is in office, they have that challenge. This is an adversary. Let's make no mistake about it. Number two, we compete against one another, and I would argue they don't compete fairly. They don't play by the same rules under the WTO, and they're engaged in the theft of technology and other types of efforts. But yet they are a vast market. And so how you balance those three factors for any administration is a problem. The Bush administration and then followed by the Obama administration tried an effort that I thought had merit. And that was the Trans-Pacific Partnership, where you engaged other nearby countries to leverage China. I think that's far better than tariffs war that ultimately the last president got engaged in. And why? Well, everybody has leverage on a tariff war, and they just keep upping the ante. But if you want to really have an opportunity to deal with this market, if you want to have an opportunity to deal with the factors of competition, and realizing that this is an adversary, I think the TTP was a far better strategy. Yes, the market access program is helpful to our American farmers and processors, and it's oversubscribed, and I have legislation that would double the funding for that. Whether or not that can come to pass with our challenges with the Farm Bill remains to be seen. So let me just ask you, Mr. Daly, for starters, your testimony focused on China and their engagement on agricultural supply chain. The pandemic, I think we really understood that our supply chain is in need of assistance at every level, and especially in agriculture. With biotechnology and plant breeding tools and other potential to help producers meet challenges by reducing greenhouse gases and emissions and foster resilience and climate change in the agricultural supply chain. What's your thoughts? I mean, because too often I think China's a bad actor. They're opaque, they're politically driven in their regulatory system, and it limits innovative technologies and their theft of American technology. And I don't even want to start with artificial intelligence and the problems with algorithms and therefore. But besides purchasing United Ag land, and we heard testimony in the earlier hearing, how do you create a fair, level playing field? In a minute or less.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Congressman. I will.
We have a time problem.
It's difficult and it's multifaceted, and you just have to take it sector by sector, issue by issue, in terms of making it a level playing field with China. In terms of we got to be smart in terms of what we address in China.
You acknowledge it's not a level playing field.
It is not a level playing field. Absolutely. The Chinese are a state-driven economy. They subsidize where they want to subsidize, and they will destroy markets and our U.S. production capabilities where they want.
Do you think in the supply chain issues, and for the rest of you, we passed the bipartisan $1.2 trillion investment in infrastructure in the last Congress. And I think when we look at our ports and harbors and we look at our supply chains, California's dairy industry is very dependent upon those feed trains coming in every week to California. But the whole essence of the supply chain and food development, production, value added, that we invest some of that infrastructure in our infrastructure?
Yeah, I think a number of bills that were passed by Congress in terms of bringing up and strengthening our infrastructure absolutely critical. There's a lot we have to do in terms of our capabilities there.
Mr. Chairman, my time's expired, but I don't know if any of these other witnesses care to comment about how we use to improve our food supply chain and dealing with the competition of China.
Well, I think it's clear the United States is the reason we're a dominant power in food systems is because of our natural resources. We've got a large concentration of highly productive soils. We've got 14,800 miles of navigable waterways, much more than any other nation, Germany or China. And we need to leverage those resources to be competitive in a world space on selling our commodities and crops and food around the world. When I look at that infrastructure, though, I look at our dams, our locks, our ports, they're aging. And I know the infrastructure bill was supposed to make an impact there. But if you look at the Civil Society Engineers Association, they come out with reports that we really get a D rating on our infrastructure.
Well, currently, but I mean, we just provided the funding. We're now ambitiously trying to do just what you said. We're doing it in California. We're rehabilitating a lot of aging infrastructure and water. I don't know if you care to comment. My time's expired.
Just quickly, if there's time, Mr. Chairman, just to say the ag community and producers, and specifically ASA, are actively involved in promoting and advocating for investments in infrastructure, whether it's ports or rail or rivers or dams. The Water Resources Development Act that Congress reauthorizes, another important tool to help farmers and to make sure we have the necessary infrastructure to move our product and move it efficiently and sustainably.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman's time has expired.